Hey everybody, happy Thursday. I'm ready to talk about money. Are you guys ready to talk about money? Um, I smile at just kind of the paradox of all of this and in talking about money because growing up, when I was in high school, my mom actually switched roles and was a financial advisor. And I'm actually married to a financial advisor. I worked for a financial services firm for 2 years in college. Out of college, I was in banking for a total of 14 years. And I feel like I know a lot about money, but I feel like money is still like that taboo topic that we just can't talk about. So I want to talk about money today and why it's so important that we talk about women and money and why this is a thing. So if you're here, say hello. Hopefully my comments are working today. I know sometimes they're a little bit grumpy. So if you have questions as I'm walking through any of this stuff, please let me know. Here, I'm going to make sure I can see all of your comments. Perfect. So I have some stats in the intro. And I want to talk about exactly what these mean and why this matters to you. So 9%, 9%, 9%, that is the amount of women who earn $100,000 or more. Does that number surprise you? Like, I don't know. I think maybe I thought it was bigger than that. So what's interesting though is so the 9%, so I'm sharing stats with you and I have this in the top of the post, 9%, 82 cents, 100%, 500,000, 6 to 8 years, and 2 hours. I'm going to walk through all of those. So 9% of women earn over $100,000 a year. This is interesting because actually 13% of men earn $100,000 or more. So this is really interesting. Oh, actually, you know what? It's 6%. I got that upside down. 6% of women earn $100,000 or more. Wow, that compared to 13% of men. So that's more than double. So we know there's a pay gap there. The actual pay gap, the gender pay gap, and I want to describe what this means. I see a bunch of you joining, so if you're here, say hello. You're at the right place. If you want to talk about money, you know, the thing that we're not supposed to talk about work, but it's really important. And I've heard people say before that there's no such thing as a broke feminist. So I think that's important that if you want to advance women at work, you need to talk about money. So say hello if you are here. 82 cents. So this is the gender pay gap for white women. And what this means is this is how far into the year women have to work to make the same amount of what men did last year. So this year's equal pay day is March 24th. So we're almost working 3 months for free. That's crazy. So we make 82 cents for every dollar a man makes. And you'll see these numbers fluctuate somewhere between 80 cents to 82 cents. Asian women, the gap is a little less. And then, of course, that gap increases for Latinas, for Black women, for Native American women. And so I think that's really important is that we talk about that gender pay gap and, you know, start advocating for some transparency in the workplace. You know, ask for workplaces to do audits and those sorts of things because this gap is real. And I'm going to talk about why this really matters for us. So the next stat that I want to talk about is 100%. So this is the amount of qualifications when a woman is looking at a job, and I just talked with someone this week, that she feels she has to meet on that job qualification list before she'll actually apply for a role. Whereas men will apply for a role when they meet 60% of the qualifications. I want to tell you why this is important. And this is from the perspective of somebody who spent a lot of years as an HR director. So when men would apply for a job and they would come to me, maybe they would talk to me about it or ask questions, they would come with kind of the attitude of, this job looks really cool. I'm going to go for it. Whereas women would come to me, and I still see this in my coaching when I'm working with clients, they'll still come to me and say, I don't know, I only meet like 7 of the qualifications and they're really looking for this and I don't have it. There's just a lot more like pensive energy where a guy is kind of like, this looks sweet, I think I'm gonna do it. So tell me if you've ever kind of like had that sort of feeling. because I think it's really important. But here's why this matters. Women are self-rejecting themselves out of roles that have higher paying salaries. So a woman, and I had a client I was working with this one time, she was looking to make a career change, and she was kind of scouring the internet for roles, and she sent me one. She goes, oh my God, I could totally nail this. And she's like, I meet like all of the qualifications. And I looked at her and I was like, I won't say her name, but I'm like, girl, you meet every single one of the qualifications. You would take this job and you would be so bored in like 3 months. And here's the deal. That job she would have settled for paid probably $20,000 to $30,000 less than the job she was truly qualified for, which was the position above it. So do you see how that works? Like men will meet like 60% and they're going to go for that higher paying job at a higher level. Well, women are doing 100%. So they're like taking themselves down a step. It's the difference between going for an $80,000 a job, $80,000 a year job and a $105,000 a year job. And so that contributes to that 6% I was telling you about. 6% of women make 100,000 or more, whereas 13% of men make $100,000 or more. There's like that gap that men are going for something that's higher. So Rachel, you said this is 100% you. In the past, I've only applied for a job if I met all the requirements and most of the preferred qualifications. So I'm going to tell you a secret, Rachel. For a living, I literally got paid to draft job. So like in org structures, they title jobs, they level jobs, and you have to write standard job descriptions. And so I was in HR at a time writing these job descriptions. And of course, we look at, we talk to the managers, what do you need? We look at what the industry has. But when we're putting in those qualifications, Rachel, like it's kind of a guess. It's kind of what we're hoping for. Like in a perfect world, somebody's going to come to us with this list of things. And if that sort of magic happens, then we've hit the lottery. So from the HR person's perspective, Rachel, I want you to know that we aren't even expecting you to meet 100%. So when you self-select out because you don't, like we're not even holding candidates to that standard. And I can tell you from being an HR person, like I've hired, and even as a hiring manager, I've hired people who maybe only met 2 of the qualifications, but because they were so outstanding of an individual, like I'm sure you are, like I hired them for their energy and their talent and their potential. And I'm like, I can teach them all this other stuff. So I want you to think, Rachel, about the next time that you're going to apply for a role, I want you to stop self-rejecting. And I actually sent it, if you're on my email list, I sent an email out that yesterday. And I think that's really important. So you felt like I've completely lucked into every position I've gotten in the last 10 years. This is what informs the imposter feeling. Oh, totally. Totally. When I left the organization I worked for 12 years, I thought I lucked myself into every position. And so then when I finally went to another company, I thought that I'd be exposed for the fraud I was, and every single amount of success I had at that previous organization was just luck. I'm like, there's no way I can succeed anywhere else. That's total imposter syndrome, and it's totally undeserved. So let's talk about this next stat then, 500,000. So there's lots of different statistics rolling out there, but $500,000 is the amount of money that the gender pay gap and all of this self-rejecting and self-selecting out costs women over their lifetime. And here's how this adds up, okay? So it's not just less salary, but remember, if you're working for an organization that does like deferred compensation or pays you, that does like 3% to your 401k, if you have a pay gap and you're either self-selecting for a lower paying job, or you're getting paid less than your male counterpart, they're taking 3% on $80,000 instead of 3% on $95,000 or whatever that looks like for you. And so compound interest over time, not only are you getting elective deferrals at a lower rate, because 3% of 80 is less than 3% of 95, but if your organization matches the 401k, you're only getting matched on a deferral from 80,000 versus 95,000. And then the compound interest over time is less. So do you see how this adds up? Which impacts the next statistic, which is 6 to 8 years. Women live 6 to 8 years longer than men. So not only Do we have, they say, about 2/3 less in our retirement accounts, but we outlive our partners if our partners are male. So if our partner is a male, we're outliving that person and we have less retirement because all of this compounds. And the final statistic I want to share with you is 2 hours. This is the amount of daily unpaid work. It's called the invisible workload of women. It's the amount of unpaid work that women take on every single day in unpaid labor, whether that's childcare, running errands. As some women were telling me in the International Women's Day webinar on Friday, sometimes it's like, hey, can you do this little extra thing? Can you take notes? Can you arrange this committee? Can you do whatever that is, right? So it's all of this unpaid work, and it adds up to an extra 95 hours a year of unpaid work. So Rachel, you said that your benefits are 26% on top of our salaries, right? So 26%, and if you're thinking about whatever financial things they're giving you, that gap in salary, it definitely makes a difference. And so why is all of this important? One of the things that I want to start being a clear advocate on for women, and I want to tell you exactly how I've done this, is being more transparent about salary. I think one of the ways that we can improve the gender pay gap, that we can reduce the amount of inequities in terms of like savings, salary, all the things for women, is to talk about it. And this is really hard because I think we've all been taught that, like, oh, you shouldn't talk about money. But I'm actually going to suggest that I don't know who told us that. Well, I know who told us that. A lot of patriarchal systems told us that. Because I don't know if y'all have noticed, like, men don't really have a problem talking about money with other men. Have you guys noticed that? It's not really a thing. But when it comes to like this discussion of women and men versus women, it's like this hush hush thing we shouldn't talk about. So I would start to think about, in what ways in your life can you start normalizing the conversation about money, about salary? It could be something as small as going to your partner and saying, let's just talk about what our plan is for retirement. It could be something as simple as going out on the internet and doing some research on what your work is and what other people make. You can go to payscale.com. That has great salary information. You can look for jobs that, are what, you do. Some companies do have salaries posted and you can kind of compare and see what they're hiring for. Another great place to go is the Bureau of Labor Statistics. You can actually drill down by job category and see what state averages are. So there's lots of places that you can look to just even see, hey, am I even in the ballpark? And you know what, you can even go to, if you suspect that maybe you aren't being paid what you should, you can even go have a conversation with HR or with your manager and say, hey, this is the value that I bring. And I have some evidence that I think that maybe there is a gap between, all the value I'm bringing and the work that I'm doing and what people are being paid. And I'd like to talk about that. So there's lots of places you can start the money conversation. And it's even just taking a look at some of your own finances, your salary, and doing some examining that way. And even just educating yourself today is a wonderful first start. So just the fact that you're here is a wonderful, wonderful first start. So let me know what questions are coming up for you. And let me know if this is bringing up any questions, because I think this conversation around women and money is one that's going to grow. I think people are going to demand more transparency around money. I don't think it's shameful for women to earn a lot of money. One of the things that was I remember sharing this on social media. People were sharing this article about how Janet Yellen, who is the new, is she the manager of the Fed? She's the Secretary of the Treasury, and how much she got paid to do keynotes. And I'm like, if she was a man, this would not be headline news, right? But we have to it's like headline news that women make money. Like, okay. The last thing that I did was I wrote the Nebraska State Legislature, because there's a bill in the Nebraska State Legislature that actually prohibits asking for your previous salary on job applications. Because what they found, and I can say this as an HR person, is that organizations, people, it creates what they call decision-making or anchor bias. So Rachel, since you've been commenting, I'll use you as an example. I'll just say, let's say you apply for a job and, I have no idea how much you make, but you say, okay, in my previous role, I made $50,000. And I put that on the job application. And maybe I, as an HR person, have a range of, okay, well, I could pay this person in range of 50 to 75. And I'm like, oh, well, since she was making 50 before, I'm going to offer her 55. Whereas, maybe a man comes in and was making 60, and I'm like, oh, well, I'll offer him 65 because I'm basing my offer off a previous anchor. And so it continues this disparity. And so what I argued to the legislature was that your previous salary has no indication on your performance or your effectiveness as an employee. So it's irrelevant to ask. And we should be paying people what the market demands and not based off of, what their previous salary was. It's still in the legislature, so I'll be super curious. But I hope they eliminate it because it eliminates this whole anchor bias. So let me know, what does this have you thinking about? I know one of the things that I'm going to do next week is I'm kind of all fired up because March 24th is Equal Pay Day. I think this is really important for women to get comfortable talking about money. So next week, I'm going to be doing a live series Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And it's just going to be super simple. How do I think about money? How do I talk about money? And how do I ask for money? So if you think that sounds fun and you want to talk about more money, then I'll invite you to that series next week. I'll be here Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 11:30 here in the Facebook group. So Rachel says, even though I'm the lowest paid and only woman in my peer group, I have to do a 50% increase in pay for my current position. Yay! Great job. That is amazing. Well, let me know what other questions are coming up to you when it comes about money. I'm going to be back here next week talking about it again. I also want you to know, for those of you who've been attending some of my stuff, my 7-week Clarity and Confidence Leadership Masterclass for Women. It's an online leadership program, begins March 23rd. I actually just got off a call with somebody who's going to be joining us on March 23rd. She's already signed up. She was telling me, she's like, this is the first time I've ever invested in myself like this. And I haven't taken like my company's program. So we're all excited and nervous. And I said, you know what, that's awesome, because as someone who used to develop leadership programs for companies, like I spent a lot of time, and I was telling her this, I spent a lot of time and energy developing that program to create leaders that would like be who the company needed, right? Like be this way so you can succeed at the company. But like I told her, I'm like, I am totally focused on finding what makes you unique and what you bring to the table and what God put you on this earth to do. And I want to elevate that as your leadership style and remove everything in the way of it. And then no matter where you go, you're showing up as the most creative and confident leader you can be. And that's what this program is all about. It's 7 weeks. We meet on Tuesdays from 12 to about 1:15 p.m. Central. And if you have to miss a couple classes, it's no big deal. They're all recorded and you have a private replay page. And so you go through these 7 leadership courses. You'll get career, confidence, and leadership building assignments. You're in this with a group of women, and we're all, it's like part teaching and, on leadership topics, but there's also a mastermind component so you can all learn from each other. Plus, it also includes at least one private coaching session with me. So if you're interested, I'd love to have you. I know it might feel scary to like invest in yourself like this. Maybe your company will pay for it. And even if they don't, I have payment programs and I'd love to have you. If you join by tomorrow, you'll get a bonus 30-minute goal setting session with me. I actually just got off one of those, and they're always super motivating to me because, she told me about like all the things that she wants to do. And I'm like, we're going to make this a reality. So let me know what questions you have about that. If you have questions and maybe this feels scary for you, PM me. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I would love to have you. We begin on March 23rd. If you sign up by tomorrow, you'll get the extra time with me. And then registration closes on March 19th. We already have some really awesome women in this group, and I am so excited. So Kath says, we need to remove the worry or fear around salary disclosures, but I know it is written in so many contracts. Like, oh, Kath, and I'm dropping my link here for my class. So if I could write the legislature on another thing, it would be that we cannot put these things in contracts that talk about money, right? I think all of this secrecy around money like perpetuates more shame and more disparity around money. Like, I don't know if y'all have ever noticed, but like in life, the things that we can't talk about cause the most trauma, and they cause the most disparity. Like, that's a whole other, you know what? I'm going to save that for next week. So I hope you all come to the lives that I'm going to do on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday next week. And I will talk more about that because Kath, I wholeheartedly agree with you. Kath is actually a financial advisor. So Kath could give a whole masterclass on how to talk about money. So thank you, dear, for your wonderful, wonderful wisdom. So if you have any questions about my 7-week course, join me. Otherwise, I will see you next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday for how to think about money, talk about money, and ask for money. And I hope you guys have an awesome Thursday. Talk to you soon.